Welcome back to Dad Life Chess. Thank you for watching this video. We are going to do a game recap, game review. I just finished this game on chess.com, went through the review, looked at some of the lines, and I thought that this game was instructional. As I mentioned in my previous videos, I've been playing a lot of 10-minute games, and I wanted to play something a little bit slower. So I chose game 15 with 10-second increment. I think the increment is actually a really great discipline to use in online chess. Granted, I love 3-0 blitz. I love 10-0. I like flagging. I understand that it is part of online chess, but ultimately I want to become a better chess player, and relying on dirty flagging or techniques like that, I don't think are going to improve my chess in the long run. So longer games, I think, are helpful. So we'll go ahead and jump right into the game. My opponent was playing black. I was playing white. Let's go ahead and open up the first move here. I played d4. My opponent responded with d5. I have been playing a lot of this knight f3 line by international master Alex Banza. However, I'm more comfortable and familiar with the accelerated London bishop f4. Truth is, I haven't completely decided one way or the other if I'm going to stick with the knight f3 or the bishop f4 lines. I do like the flexibility of knight f3. The nice thing about knight f3 is you can actually transpose into a typical Queen's Gambit decline. You can play a Catalan. You can play a Coley system. You can play you can play the Tory attack. There's a lot of great transpositional things, and it also doesn't show your cards right away. So that's a pro. But there's one line, and actually this game shows it, where I prefer the accelerated London with the bishop f4, and you'll see what happens as the game progresses. Well, I played e3 here. Obviously, knight f3 is would transpose directly into international master Alex Banza's course. But this line right here, and this is kind of the point in my London study that I'm not 100% convinced that knight f3 I prefer one way or the other. I think they are both about equal. I still think this early bishop f5 line is one of the best lines black can play for equality. Black just gets a really good game if black knows what they're doing. But I find that a lot of my opponents don't, and they kind of fall into some of these typical themes that we see in the London system. And one of those is when you play an early c4. That's what I chose in this game. My opponent played e6, which I believe is the correct move order. c6 allows me to bring my queen out, I think, a little bit earlier. The idea is to bring out the bishop early. My opponent didn't do that. I think right here, actually, this line or here is really good for black. This right here might be the reason why this early c4 with the bishop f4 line is probably not the greatest. This is basically, I think, equality for black according to opening theory and the engines. But my opponent ended up playing c6, and this is kind of the position that I like to see because now I can play my idea of an early queen b6. I'm attacking the b7 pawn. They do not want to give that up, so they'll often respond, as they did in this game, by playing queen to b6. Now this is an inaccuracy because it really plays right into my idea with pushing and getting now this open A file. If you watched a few days ago my recap video with Chess Feels, aka JK Lang, he got a position like this, and I didn't exchange queens, and long story short, I was mixing up variations, and I should have. But in this situation, black is going to be under a lot of pressure. So right here, my opponent plays knight bd7. Now, something you always need to be aware of is these early knight h5 ideas. They're going to want to chop off this bishop, but in this case, you can actually just take here, takes, and then you can play bishop e2, attacking this knight. Once they drop back, you've now developed with tempo, and now you can grab the free pawn. They're underdeveloped. They're not going to be able to contest this file right away. you're going to be able to get your pieces, you get your pieces out, castle, and you'll be basically dominating on the A file. So they can't do that right away. So my opponent plays knight bd7. In this point, I considered maybe getting a little luffed for my bishop so they could drop back, but I decided with the most principled and, according to the computer, the best move. Now, I didn't actually look at this yet, but my question is what do you do here? This is where I oftentimes find myself. Oh, I remember this idea actually. Okay, so the idea is you can actually play bishop to c7, and then they'll probably play here. They'll probably play here. And then you can either drop back or you can even play bishop e5. Most players will take. You take back. This pawn is on pre. So they'll probably play a6. Then you're going to play here. The knight is now running out of squares, as you noticed. Their best option is to play d4. If they don't, then if they do something like this, you're going to play g4 and trap these two pieces. Probably a good line to remember. If they play knight h5 too early, you can go here thinking that you're going to keep the bishop. You chase them off here. They'll probably, even if they go something like this, you can then go here. This is going to be a problem. This knight's also trapped. Takes. They got to do something with this knight to allow it to probably something like this. Here. And there's a lot of things you can do, but simply just take the pawn. Yeah, this is not the kind of position Black wants to find himself in. So these early knight h5, you have to kind of time it correctly when to play h3 and to stop this knight h5 idea. But it is good to know that when you put your bishop on e5 and they take, it stops. It basically takes away all of Black's escape squares for their knight. So my opponent played bishop e7, and here I decided on playing h3. Perhaps it was maybe better for me to just the computer's kind of saying one way or the other, doesn't matter. Maybe even bishop e2, stopping this, getting this piece developed. But whatever it is, I ended up playing h3. Nothing too wrong with that move. My opponent castled, and then I played knight f3. I want to kind of deter this push, e5 push, that they try to get oftentimes in the center. My opponent played h6. Now this is going to be a problem because they're not seeing my queenside expansion threat. I was expecting them to play a6, where now I'm going to have to kind of maneuver my pieces into on the queen side, but instead they gave some room for their bishop, obviously, to drop back, but that's not necessarily what I'm playing for. So I struck with b5, which is a good move. They take, and the computer is actually suggesting here, because I'm on this, I have this, but I ended up just taking with my bishop, developing, and come to find out it was probably an inaccuracy, but White's still doing well here. They play a6. I simply just dropped back to e2. They played rook a to c8, and then I castled. They played knight e4. At this point, I thought, well, I probably should take. If they take, I could just drop my knight back. That's what I did. I decided there, and I dropped my knight back. Now, if you are paying attention at this point, you should look at my clock, and you should be saying to yourself, Joel, you're not managing your time well. You have more time than you started with. You have 15 minutes and 17 seconds. Now, thankfully, I do slow down a little bit later, but this game kind of exposed to me yet again my poor clock management, and it gets me in trouble. It gets me in trouble in a critical position. Now, my opponent drops his bishop back to h7. I go ahead and keep expanding on the queen side. I still have more time on my clock than I started with, And but here I took some time to think through my move. Now the computer is suggesting just push right away with b5, but this knight's wanting to basically get some fresh air here on c6, where it can start attacking maybe my backward b pawn. And I thought to myself, this bishop here is going to be locked in by my dark square pawns. This is my bad bishop, and I went ahead and captured here. Now you'll notice I took some time. I actually thought through, and see what happens when you think through a move. It's a mistake. It was maybe a computer mistake, according to Stockfish, but there was an idea behind it. Now, going back, looking at this position now, kind of with fresh eyes, I can see where the computer's saying, hey, this is definitely your best choice. They're going to need to take. Then that's the idea. Didn't see that, actually. I was just looking at this. That becomes quite powerful because their best move is here, and then you take here. This is falling. This is protected. Okay, so I totally missed that. B5. So this actually is what I was looking at. And then here, stopping rook a7, where it takes and takes. I get rook a7, but here I get the a file. Probably white's doing well here. I mean, the computer's evaluating +1, but maybe not as good as we could have had. Now, my move, taking the knight, did not play out as well as I would have liked. He simply recaptures. Now I push b5. Again, it's kind of a mistake by mistake. I've pretty much given away all of my opening advantage at this point, according to the computer. Takes, rook here. And so I bring my knight in. He goes here. I play here. And then my opponent makes a blunder. So he plays rook a7, which is a blunder. Now, my next move is I found the best move, saw the tactic. And I think chess.com actually gave me a brilliancy for this. And perhaps if you want to pause the video and see if you can spot the tactic, you'll see what it is. It's a common theme. His idea is to basically get both of his rooks doubled on the A file and threaten my knight. And if my knight moves away, if it was to move anywhere, he just wants to trade off the rooks. He's got both bishops. This is good for him. But noticing that this rook is unprotected, I see the tactic, and this is it right here. Knight to c6, double exclam. Beautiful move. The point being, I get a tempo on the rook, and this is going to come with check. So in the game, he took, but I had to calculate, because what if he takes here, I take here, he takes here? 2 pieces for the rook. Well, if you're following along and you're calculating, you'll notice that when the rook is here, it's also threatening the bishop that's here. So let's look at that line. If he takes here, I take here, threatening this bishop, the best chance is probably do a little kamikaze move, takes here, and then oh wow, I can just go here, and then this pawn is going to be kind of annoying for sure. So yeah, that's at least one line. So played knight c6. My opponent took here. I take with check, and now you think to yourself, well, he's just simply going to bring his king here. He's going to get it the next move. But with that extra tempo, I love chess.com. They're like, hey, thank you for not dropping this random rook and capturing the rook back. Great move! Exclamation point. Now what's the best move? Through that sequence, that actually did not gain material. That's a funny thing about this tactic. This is probably an instructional tactic here. We always think of tactics to win material or to checkmate our opponent's king, but basically I exchanged off some pieces and then was able to activate my rook on the A file uncontested and puts a lot of threat. Now, ultimately, yes, it does win some material if played correctly. So we have this position, and here it is. So the next thing that happens is we go right here, rook b8. And I went back and I looked how long it took me to make my next move. And I think it was around 16 seconds, thereabouts. I play a blender that basically gives away my entire advantage. And if I would have just taken some time, I have 12 minutes. I started with 15. I have plenty of time, especially with the increment. I would have seen that in order to win this pawn, I have to do something a little creative. It's pinned with the king. I played c6. This is a blender. We're going to give that a double question mark. My opponent finds a good response, plays here. And here I should have taken with the rook, but instead I took with the pawn. And now I'm really giving away my advantage. But instead of the move c6, can you see the best move in this position? Now, a double question mark is a little exaggerating, but I'm giving the blunder because of my lack of taking time to think. The correct move is either bishop a6 or bishop c6. I like bishop a6. It's a little more kind of direct. Now the king is unable to get over here, jump these two squares, and this pawn is lost. So let's just say they go here. Now I'm able to take with the bishop, and I can draw my bishop back. I have this long 7th rank. It's just dominating position, completely winning. Instead, I played c6, and then from there, I just kind of like started to fall apart in my game here. King d6, I take. He plays e5. I didn't understand that too much. Here, I have an opportunity to actually play here, check, king c7, and then bishop c6. I'm going to be able to hold on to this for a little bit longer. But instead in the game, I played bishop a6. And now I'm basically just making the game easy for my opponent. He plays bishop f5, which I was kind of surprised with. I was just expecting him to go here. And now I thought I was getting a little bit fancy. I was like, okay, now I'm going to go here. Of course, he finds the move that kind of just holds everything together. Obviously, he can't take here, or that's just game over. So I'm thinking to myself, well, at first I was afraid I was getting things lost. Like he can't come out here and track my bishop because I could just take the rook. And I was like, am I losing this game? What's happening? I'm kind of frustrated with myself, especially after seeing a move like knight c6 earlier. So I thought, okay, I'm going to bring my king out. Now, the computer says this is a bad move. I should have come out this way, this idea, attacking these pawns. My opponent plays bishop d7. Excellent move. What's his idea? Boom, here, trade everything off, and then we basically have a drawn endgame. Now, we get to this position. He finds this move. I come in here. If you see what I did, instead of going 1, 2, I would have been already here. Is that right? Because 1, 2, 3. Yeah. 1, 2, 3. I would have been already on this square here if I would have taken this dark squared route. Of course, I went the slow route. He takes, I take here, which I was probably thinking that he would have taken. I thought he was going to take here. Yeah, that was the then oops, here, then here. I thought this might have been better. This is dead drawn. But instead, we played with this, and after taking here and here, I thought, okay, well, it's not over. It's not over. And what happens in the next 5 or 6 moves is very difficult to explain. So we're just going to look at it. But essentially, my opponent says, you had so many chances to win, and you didn't. So I'm going to put my king in a position that I almost checkmate myself. Watch what happens. King d6, h4, king e6, h5. I want to stop this pawn. It's dead drawn, according to the computer. King f5. I check. King over. Already not looking good. I play king d3, king g3, and my opponent takes the pawn. If you saw the eval bar and you see the little M1, you should be able to spot this. I was like, okay, we'll take that. We take these. We take these. So I can't really explain the last few moves of this game. I don't know what my opponent was thinking. I don't know what he thought he would accomplish over there with his king. But hey, it happens. I thought he was going to bring his king over here and try to push. Anyway, long story short, we take those W's. But I want you to look at my clock. 11 minutes, 31 seconds. That is very poor clock management. So this game taught me, take your time. You have the 15 minutes. Think in those critical points. Don't worry too much if you gain some time in the opening, but take time and think. And I think it'll be worth it at the end. So, well, thank you for making it this far in this game review. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you learned some things. Hopefully you saw knight c6. I thought that was a beautiful move. It would have been even more beautiful if I would have been able to clinch the game shortly thereafter. But we learned from these. So if you have not already, please do subscribe. It helps out the channel. It's free. You just click subscribe. Boom, you are subscribed. I'm trying to raise the subscriber count to hit the next level that YouTube says I have to hit. And yeah, leave me a comment. I try to respond to most all comments as long as they're decently positive. And hey, thanks again. We'll talk to you later. Have a great day.